My name is Elena Min Nguyen. I'm 32, and I build systems for a living. My job is to find the weak joints, the load-bearing walls, the faulty wiring no one notices until it sparks at 2 a.m. You'd think that would make me cynical about love. It didn't, until the night Adrian stood in our living room and said, almost cheerfully, "I'm moving in with Maya for a bit, just for financial reasons." He said it like we were choosing a cheaper streaming plan. The word that snagged in my ear wasn't moving. It was Maya, his best friend, also his ex-girlfriend, in the way people use ex like a museum tag for something harmless and historical. She's not history. History doesn't text at 1 a.m. with "you up? Rent math is wild LOL." History doesn't know where the spare keys are. Adrian smiled like we were partners optimizing a spreadsheet. "Babe, it makes sense. Maya's roommate bailed. Her place is half what we pay here. If I move in for a few months, we stack cash for our down payment. We get the house faster." "Our house," I said, tasting the word. I glanced at the couch we'd argued over for 3 weekends, the plant he kept forgetting to water, the coffee ring on the edge of the dining table I bought when we moved in. Our house, someday, had been the North Star of every compromise. He waited for my explosion. In his script, I was supposed to be jealous, or controlling. Something loud enough to prove that living with Maya was the reasonable, adult alternative to my imagined irrationality. Instead, I did the one thing you can do to a script you didn't write. I smiled. "That works out perfectly," I said. It was almost fun, watching the triumph drain off his face. Confusion has a sound. It's the soft click of a door that doesn't open. "Perfectly?" he echoed. I nodded. Short-term sacrifice, long-term payoff. It's exactly the kind of thinking that makes me proud of you. He blinked. The words didn't fit in his mouth. He tried again, slower. "Right, exactly." He started talking faster. Numbers, months, the way a man does when he needs to drown out his own doubt. I listened. I think I even encouraged him. "Smart," I said. "Disciplined." It was like feeding words to a parrot and hearing them come back, shiny and meaningless. Later, he put Maya on speaker and they scrolled through sublets and grocery estimates, laughing about how grown-up they were. I stacked bowls into the dishwasher and turned each one a quarter inch to the left. That's how you make things fit. Increments so small, no one notices until the cabinet closes perfectly. When he hung up, I poured tea, set the cup in front of him, and sat across the coffee table. My voice was gentle, like the first line of a lullaby. "You inspired me," I said. "Yeah?" He brightened. He wanted me in his narrative again, nodding from the sidelines. "I've had an offer on the table," I said, "for a 2-year assignment with our company's European team. Huge completion bonus. I turned it down because I didn't want to leave you. But if you're moving out to accelerate savings," I let the implication breathe. "It makes perfect sense. I'll put my things in storage, live cheaply there, and funnel the entire salary plus the bonus into the down payment fund. When I come back, we buy our dream house in cash." His jaw slid a millimeter. "You learn to watch tiny movements in people the way you read logs. The blips tell the story." "Europe," he said finally. The word landed like a dropped fork. "I called and accepted tonight," I lied smoothly. A truth about systems. Sometimes you simulate load to see what breaks. They're sending the final contract in the morning. The assignment starts in 3 weeks. I've already given notice on the lease, end of the month. The timing is perfect. Color drained from his face. "You ended our lease?" "The goal is to save, Adrian," I said softly. "Flights are expensive. Distractions are expensive. Best if we both stay disciplined. And since we'll be managing finances separately for the next 2 years, we need to split shared assets now. Joint savings, furniture, everything we acquired together. I made a spreadsheet." I placed my laptop on the table. Cells gleamed coolly. Dates, amounts, sources. 90% of the joint deposits were mine. Not because he was lazy, he wasn't, but because when trouble came, I handled it first. Car repair, dental bill, a last-minute gift for his mother. The little things that tell a story you don't want to read. He stared at the screen as if it were a tide chart, predicting a storm he'd planned to surf. "I thought," he swallowed, "we're a team." "We are," I said. "This is the teamwork you wanted. Separate short-term moves for a long-term prize." He stood, paced, sat. "But where will you, if the lease, what about when you visit?" I tilted my head. "Visit? Adrian, I'll be working. We have goals. You said so." The tea cooled between us. He reached for my hand and then seemed to think better of it. Maya just needs help. It's not like that. I didn't say it was, I said. You told me it isn't. I believe you. I let the sentence hang like a coat on a hook. He had to walk past it to leave. That night he didn't sleep. I know because the bedroom camera's status light glowed a steady berry red, armed at 1:13 a.m., disarmed at 1:52, armed again at 2:41. Not because I was spying. I monitor patterns for a living. The signature of panic is always the same. Too many toggles, too fast. In the morning, he moved through the kitchen carefully, like a man crossing thin ice. Maybe this is rushed, he said. Maybe we should talk to someone, like a counselor. I think we're fine, I said. We're being smart. He laughed once, brittle as a stale cracker. You really would go. I already said yes. He grabbed onto the thing that felt solid. We can sell the couch, he said, touching the arm like it might reassure him. Split it. Receipt's in my name, I said. Bought it before we met. The dining table is mine too. I did that as a housewarming gift. I've tagged the truly shared items in yellow. Kitchenware, some linens, artwork we bought on our anniversary trip. You can have the framed concert poster, though. I know you love it. He flinched. It was Maya's favorite band, not mine. The rest of the day tasted like metal. He texted from work. I answered politely. At 6:12 p.m., an unknown number called and hung up. At 6:13, Maya's name lit his phone, then dimmed. At 7:01, he sent me a screen recording from his banking app, highlighting a small transfer he'd just made into the joint account, as if to prove he belonged in this arithmetic. At 7:03, I moved his name from favorites to contacts. You can measure the end of a relationship in the distance your thumb travels. When he came home, he tried a new angle. We don't have to split everything right now. It's punitive. We can keep the car and phone plan in your name, just until Europe. Europe is expensive, I said gently. We agreed to be disciplined. I didn't agree to this, he said, and there it was, the first honest thing all day. I could have asked why he got to announce moving in with his ex without asking me first, and why my plan required his permission. But I didn't. I didn't need the moral victory. I needed the boundary. Then let's agree now, I said. We both do the financially smart thing. Separate accounts. Separate responsibilities. Clean lines. He stared at the couch again like it could coach him. Maya's place is temporary, he said. She's a friend. I hope she's a good one, I said softly. He frowned. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing. I closed the laptop. I'm proud of you for thinking long term. I watched the realization pass over his face in waves. He wanted me to explode so he could be the calm solution. Instead, I had become the calm solution, and he was the variable spinning outside the model, unable to hook back in. Later, after he'd showered and lay rigid on the edge of the bed, I stood in the doorway and let the hall light etch him in two colors. There's a point in any failure analysis where you stop asking who meant well and start recording what happened. I had reached it. The storm had already passed. The quiet that remained wasn't peace, not yet. It was clarity. And clarity is what you get when you stop subsidizing a lie. There's a myth people love, that heartbreak happens suddenly. It doesn't. It unfolds in spreadsheets and silence. 2 weeks after Adrian's announcement, our shared life became a series of deletions. I started small. The car insurance, canceled. The phone plan, removed his line. Netflix, Spotify, gym membership, all reassigned or terminated. Every digital thread that tied him to my accounts went dark. Each step was methodical, not vindictive, procedural. He didn't notice at first. Men like Adrian rarely do. They think maintenance is invisible because someone else performs it. When he finally texted, "Hey, the car app isn't letting me log in," I replied, "Must be because it's no longer under my name. I sold it." I hadn't, not yet, but the car was already parked in a private garage downtown, registered under my company address. He called immediately. "Sold it? Elena, how am I supposed to get to work?" "It's a financial decision," I said evenly. "Remember? Discipline." Silence. Then a small, frustrated exhale. The sound of a man realizing the rules have changed. That night, I sat alone in the apartment, the walls stripped bare. Boxes labeled in my handwriting lined the hallway. Lease ends 30th. Adrian's things were still scattered around. Shoes by the door, half a bottle of cologne, a hoodie draped over the couch like a ghost too lazy to leave. He came home later than usual, his voice soft with that pleading edge I used to find endearing. Elena, maybe we went too far. I don't want you to take the Europe job. I smiled faintly. It's already done. He rubbed his face. You can't just leave for 2 years. We should talk to someone. I tried talking, I said. You declared. The word declared hung between us like a verdict. He started pacing, muttering about logistics and timing, until finally blurting, You're being cold. This isn't you. No, I said, calm as ever. This is me, without your noise. I watched him deflate. He sat down, elbows on knees. You don't understand. Maya really needed a roommate. She's struggling. It's not what you think. I tilted my head. Oh, I understand perfectly. You're helping her financially. I'm helping myself. We're both practical people. He flinched at his own logic turned against him. When he left to clear his head, I opened my laptop and pulled up my logs. Not to stalk, to verify. That's what analysts do, verify data integrity. The home Wi-Fi usage chart glowed across the screen. Clear patterns. Every night between midnight and 2 a.m., spikes from his devices. Messaging apps, social media, a shared drive link with Maya, budget, DXLSX. Budget, interesting word. I had already mirrored that drive 2 months ago when my gut first whispered that something was off. The file contained a breakdown. Projected rent, groceries, utilities, and a column titled Support from E. E for Elena, my contribution. The money he assumed would keep flowing through our joint savings while he lived cheaper. He wasn't moving out to save our future. He was moving out to test the limits of mine. And I had just given him the illusion of freedom while quietly unplugging his power supply. I documented everything. Screenshots, timestamps, financial statements, each labeled and cross-referenced. I called it Project Reset. The irony wasn't lost on me. My day job was restructuring failing systems. My personal life had just become my finest case study. 3 days later, he texted again. Phones cut off? Yes, I replied. End of billing cycle. You could have warned me. I did, 2 weeks ago, in the spreadsheet. The spreadsheet, my quiet weapon. Then came Maya's message, short and smug. Hey, Elena, just wanted to say no hard feelings. We're all adults here. Her emoji smile might as well have been a knife. I didn't reply. Instead, I moved her number into a folder labeled Noise Suppression. A week later, Adrian showed up unannounced. He looked thinner, tired. The kind of man who's starting to realize his safety net was actually someone else's web. Elena, this isn't fair, he said. You're punishing me. Am I? I asked, standing in the doorway. Or are you just experiencing your own consequences without my cushioning? He stared, speechless. I stepped aside, gesturing toward the half-packed boxes. Take what's yours. I've cataloged everything. He grabbed a few things in silence, then paused by the couch, the same one that started all this. You really ended the lease? Yes, on the 30th the keys go back. He shook his head. Maya says you're losing it, that you're doing this to prove something. I smiled slightly. She's right. He frowned. You think this makes you stronger? You're cold. No, I said. I'm awake. When he left, I sat on the floor amid the echo of empty shelves. I opened my notebook and wrote one line. System reconfiguration successful. Awaiting error reports. The first came sooner than I expected. 2 days later, I received an email from our joint account provider. Adrian had attempted multiple withdrawals beyond his authorized limit. Denied. Attached to that alert was another notification. A new subscription had been created using my old billing info, Maya's name, their address. I didn't get angry. I got to work. I called the company, flagged it as unauthorized use, and within 20 minutes the account was frozen. At 9:47 p.m., Adrian texted in panic. Maya's Netflix got locked. What did you do? Nothing, I wrote back. The system corrected itself. He didn't reply. That night, I looked at the city skyline outside my window, lights flickering like pulse points on a dashboard. People think revenge is rage. It's not. It's rhythm. By morning, I'd already drafted the next phase, asset division finalized, mutual contacts trimmed, and one quiet transfer to a new apartment across town. By the end of the week, I would vanish from his map, financially, digitally, emotionally. He'd still have Maya, and the bills. I closed the laptop and whispered to myself, system stable, proceed to monitoring phase. By the third week, silence had become my favorite sound. No more, hey babe, can you cover this month's electric? No more notifications pinging from shared accounts. Just quiet. Clean, measurable quiet. But nature, and gossip, abhors a vacuum. The first crack appeared on a Tuesday morning. A message from a mutual friend, Tara, popped up. Hey, Adrian says you had some kind of breakdown? That you're taking revenge because he's moving out? Breakdown. The word made me laugh, the irony too sharp to ignore. If anything, I'd finally stop breaking. It didn't take long to see the pattern. Adrian and Maya had started a damage control campaign. They were planting seeds. Elena couldn't handle change. She's obsessed with control. She's trying to ruin us. It was exactly what people do when their story begins to slip. They build a prettier lie on top of the ugly one. But I'd prepared for that too. When my suspicions about them first solidified months ago, I didn't rage. I researched. I collected data, grocery receipts from our shared app showing premium wine and imported steak I never saw. I tracked recurring delivery addresses, Maya's. I even had copies of her prior eviction notice and debt filings, all public record. Every file was labeled, time-stamped, stored neatly in a folder titled Evidence Log MSO3. So when Tara said, "Everyone's talking," I smiled and said, "Then they should have context." Within an hour, I built a password-protected webpage. No commentary, no dramatics, just data. Screenshots, receipts, a short timeline. The truth, sanitized and irrefutable. Then I sent Tara the link. If anyone wants my side, I wrote, they're welcome to review the documentation. By evening, the whispers had stopped. 2 days later, Adrian's mother called. Her voice trembled with restrained outrage. Elena, I can't believe you'd humiliate my son like this. How could you be so cruel? Cruel? I repeated softly. He moved in with his ex without warning me, used my income to pay for it, and told people I lost my mind. I simply published receipts. That's vindictive. That's accurate. She tried another tactic. You loved him once. You have a responsibility. I cut her off. He's an adult. He made a financial decision. So did I. She hung up without another word. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Not because she was wrong, but because she'd spent her life protecting a man from the natural consequences of his own choices. By the weekend, my phone started buzzing again, this time with messages from people I hadn't heard from in years. Wow, didn't realize what he was doing to you. You were smart to walk. Good for you for handling it with class. Class, they always say that when they mean you didn't scream. Meanwhile, the gossip front shifted. Apparently, Maya's landlord had begun proceedings for unpaid rent. Someone had anonymously sent him proof of her past eviction record. I'll never confirm or deny how that happened. Adrian texted that night, angry and confused. You need to stop interfering in my life. I'm not, I replied. I'm observing it. You're ruining me. You did that when you mistook my silence for permission. He didn't respond again. But Maya did. Her message came at 2:17 a.m. You think you're clever? You're just bitter. No one's going to love you after this. I almost replied, almost. Instead, I archived the conversation and labeled it Projection 1. By the next morning, she'd deleted her account. A few days later, the guilt offensive began. It started with a mutual coworker, then another old friend, then an email from Adrian's aunt. Each one carried the same phrasing. You're better than this. Be the bigger person. He's suffering enough. I didn't respond, but I did add another document to my archive. A transcript from our home security system's audio recordings. Our alarm triggered audio capture whenever the door was armed or disarmed. That meant I had a handful of conversations recorded from nights he thought I was asleep. One in particular began with Maya laughing. She actually believes you're just moving in to save money? And Adrian replying, she's practical. I'll keep her on the hook until we're stable. She's like a long-term investment. A long-term investment. That one line burned itself into me, not from pain, but precision. They'd quantified me, and in doing so, they'd made themselves traceable. I didn't release the recording publicly. I didn't need to. I just sent it, privately, to the 3 mutual friends who'd defended them the loudest. Within 12 hours, the Whisper network went silent again. The next call I got wasn't from friends. It was from Adrian's father. Unlike his wife, he didn't yell. His voice was low, almost resigned. Elena, I've seen what you posted. I just want to pick up Adrian's remaining things. I'll leave them in the building's loading bay at noon tomorrow, I said. He hesitated. And the car? He needs it for work. The car was sold, I lied smoothly. Sound financial decision. He didn't argue, just a heavy sigh. The sound of a man realizing his son had finally run out of lifelines. When I hung up, I looked around my nearly empty apartment. The space that had once echoed with someone else's laughter now hummed with a new kind of peace. There were no more accusations to refute, no image to protect, just data. Clean, precise, complete. Still, I knew the story wasn't done. People like Adrian and Maya don't fade quietly. They scramble for new hosts. But I was ready for the aftershocks, because I'd stopped being part of their system. And the moment I stepped out, their structure began to collapse. I leaned back, opened my laptop, and typed one final note to myself. System report. External instability detected. Monitor for failure cascade. Outside, thunder rolled across the city. And somewhere, I imagined, their lights flickered. A month passed. Enough time for the story to stop trending in whispers and start echoing in silence. Adrian and Maya's perfect financial partnership had collapsed faster than I could have designed it. Their landlord filed for eviction after 2 missed payments. The irony? Their budget spreadsheet had assumed that my old transfers would continue automatically. They had never once considered that I might close the account. That's the danger of poor systems thinking. You mistake habit for stability. I didn't reach out. I didn't need to. The city has its own way of delivering news. Friends talked. Screenshots traveled. By the time I saw the photo of Maya crying in the hallway beside her boxes, I didn't even feel anger, only inevitability. Still, the email started. First from Adrian's number. Elena, we're getting kicked out. You don't have to do this. You made your choice, I replied. Please, I'm begging you. Then stop using my name and yours. He stopped texting after that, but the digital dust he left behind was telling. Desperate late-night searches in his shared cloud folder titled Emergency Help. And the final insult, he tried to log into my old Netflix account again. A small act, but symbolic. Even now, he wanted access. I had already changed everything. Emails, passwords, 2-factor verifications, phone carrier, even my online banking alias. My new apartment sat across town, quiet and efficient, with no trace of him. But the aftershocks still came. The first was legal. A letter from a law firm, Maya's cousin, apparently, accusing me of intentional emotional distress and withholding shared financial resources. It was a bluff, but a calculated one. So I made my own calculation. I forwarded it to my attorney, Lynn Tran, a woman whose calm makes judges nervous. She scanned the document once and smiled faintly. We can counter. And within a week, we filed a civil claim for conspiracy to commit fraud, backed by my documentation. The shared spreadsheet where E was listed as a funding source. Screenshots of bank transfers from our joint account to Maya's rent. Audio transcripts of them laughing about their retirement plan. Even the landlord's signed affidavit about their eviction and my anonymous tip. It wasn't about winning damages, it was about definition. They wanted to make me look hysterical. I made them look documented. Lynn sent the filing directly to their lawyer's office. Within days, Maya's cousin dropped her as a client. The next email I received was not from a lawyer, but from Maya herself. You didn't have to take it this far. I didn't respond. There was nothing left to take. Around the same time, I started hearing from people I hadn't spoken to in months. One of our mutual friends, Jenna, called hesitantly. Hey, Elena, just so you know, Adrian's back at his parents' place. Maya moved in with a coworker. It's bad. I thanked her, but didn't ask for details. The thing about revenge is that when it's clean, you don't need updates. Still, one rumor caught my attention. Adrian had been fired. Apparently, someone, maybe a recruiter, maybe a whisper, had alerted his company about conflicts of interest involving misuse of shared finances. In his line of work, reputation was currency. The market had crashed. Maya didn't fare better. Her firm's HR department couldn't renew her contract after internal gossip spread about her living situation. In a company obsessed with optics, she'd become radioactive. They'd wanted to build a house together. Instead, they'd built a crater. One evening, after a long day at work, I came home to my new apartment, the smallest one I'd lived in since college. The walls still smelled faintly of fresh paint. I unpacked a single box labeled personal items, a framed degree, a potted plant that had somehow survived everything, and a ceramic dish. The dish was once our key tray. Now it held only mine. I set it on the counter and took a deep breath. For the first time in months, the silence wasn't empty. It was earned. Then came the final echo. A thin envelope from Maya's lawyer, now a new one, barely out of school. Inside, a proposed settlement agreement. It read, Client Maya Lay and Adrian Cole formally renounce any and all financial or emotional claims related to Ms. Elena Nguyen and waive the right to further contact. At the bottom was a clause I'd requested through Lynn, a non-disclosure agreement. They could never speak about me, write about me, or publicly mention my name in connection to any part of this, not without severe legal consequences. The ink of their signatures looked rushed, as if they just wanted it done. I didn't smile, not really. I just placed the papers in my filing cabinet under resolved cases. A few nights later, I found myself sitting by the window, city lights shimmering like a million data points. I thought about the phrase Adrian once used. She's my long-term investment. He was half right. I was an investment, but not his. I was my own. And like any sound system, when corrupted code appears, you isolate, contain, and rebuild from clean backup. That's what I'd done. The system had rebalanced itself, and for the first time in years, I no longer needed to monitor it. It's been 6 months since everything ended. 6 months since I last heard Adrian's name spoken out loud. The dust has finally settled, though sometimes I still catch fragments of the old noise, a mutual friend mentioning what happened, a half-deleted post, a memory that flickers like an error message before clearing itself. But mostly there's quiet. Not the hollow kind that used to follow our arguments. This is structured quiet, balanced. My apartment is smaller now, but it breathes easier. 1 bedroom, sunlight pooling through gauzy curtains, plants that actually thrive. I've even stopped checking the door camera at night. I don't need to. The system's stable. At work, my team jokes that I'm unhackable. Maybe they're right. I've become careful about what I share, where I store my data, who gets access, what information deserves encryption. Not because I'm paranoid, because I've learned that love without boundaries is just another unsecured network. Sometimes I scroll back through the folder labeled Project, Reset, not to gloat, but to remind myself how easily trust can be rewritten. Every document, every log, every screenshot is a map of the person I used to be. The woman who mistook stability for devotion. That woman no longer lives here. A few weeks ago, I bumped into Tara at a coffee shop. She hesitated before speaking, as if afraid to awaken something buried. "Did you hear?" she asked quietly. "Maya moved back home. Adrian, too. They don't talk anymore." I nodded. I figured. "They said you ruined them," she added, testing me. I smiled. "No, they did that themselves. I just stopped paying the bill." Tara exhaled, a half laugh, half sigh, and murmured, "You know, it's strange. You seem happy." "I am," I said, realizing it was true. For months, my revenge had felt like a system in motion, a process to complete. But peace isn't the opposite of revenge. It's what's left when the process ends. That night, I poured myself a glass of wine and sat by the window. The city lights shimmered below, the same skyline I'd stared at the night everything fell apart. Back then, I thought the storm had destroyed me. Now I see it differently. The storm didn't destroy my foundation. It cleared away a structure that had been rotten from the inside. Adrian once said I was too analytical for my own good. He was right in a way. I see patterns where others see emotion. But what he never understood is that logic isn't cold. It's clarity dressed as mercy. I didn't ruin him. I revealed him. A few days later, a final letter arrived in my mailbox. It wasn't legal this time, just a thin, white envelope with no return address. Inside was a single line, written in Adrian's handwriting. "You won." No signature, no apology, just that. For a moment, I stared at it, waiting for the old anger to surface. It didn't. Instead, I felt closure. Winning wasn't the point anymore. The real victory was that his voice no longer lived rent-free in my head. I folded the note once and slipped it into the ceramic dish by my door, the same one that used to hold both our keys. Now it holds only mine, and the letter that proved I'd finally locked the past outside. In the mornings, I open the windows wide and let the air move through every room. There's no echo anymore, no waiting for footsteps that won't return. The quiet isn't an absence, it's a choice. And in that choice, I've found the kind of peace no system can quantify.